is Darren Meitiner-Harvey, and another person who's had a promotion recently. Congratulations, Darren. I saw on Twitter that you've been made deputy head for September. Really looking forward to hearing about the work you're doing on creating a diverse and inclusive curriculum. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I have got a promotion, which is really great. So I'm really happy about that. To give everyone a bit of context, really, I wanted to share today a little bit of my thoughts on curriculum and the importance of diversifying the curriculum, but then also kind of my own experiences with that, because I think that's really important to share those, because I wanted that kind of authenticity of some of the barriers that I've encountered and how I've overcome those barriers. So first of all, just very quickly, what is curriculum? It's a weird thing to put out there, but a lot of the time we talk about curriculum and then you put someone on the spot and you say, well, what is it? And it's a difficult thing to define. But essentially, the way I like to think of it is the acquisition of knowledge and the learning experience. It's the story of people and our place in the world. What are our discoveries, our struggles, our innovations, our and ambitions, and of all of that through that schooling, college, university experience. I think in terms of tackling, diversifying the curriculum, it has to really be a whole school approach. I've spoken to lots of your colleagues in other schools and listened to their struggles, and I hear these fantastic stories of particular subject areas where you've got someone who's really bold and they're wanting to take it on, and it's happening through their subject, but it's becoming a little bit unstuck when it comes to making it something whole school. I think it really has to be something that you get the senior leadership on board. If you are a senior leader, it has to be driven by senior leadership, because essentially I've got get it on the school improvement plan. There's absolutely no excuse to not have it on there, and then it's a collective responsibility. It's constantly talked about in those meetings at a senior level, at a subject level. So I think it's really important to get that and get all subjects on side. I have a personal bugbear that there is no excuse. There's not a single subject that has an excuse to not get involved. And I'm not naive. Of course, I've encountered some particular subjects that say, well, it's something we don't really need to worry about because of the nature of our subject. And we really need to, just have a zero excuses culture. I think offering to put on interactive CPD, I've benefited massively from some of my friends and colleagues. I know Bex and Anna were on earlier, and I think it's really important to have, to experience that CPD and to go through it, and then to pass that on yourself. And for me, I'm a big fan of interactive CPD. Get people involved, get discussions going, not necessarily kind of a passive experience. I think that's really important. Get the students involved. That comes up an awful lot, but make sure that the leadership is strong. Because again, in my experience, everyone wants to get the students involved, but you really need to make sure that they've got that models of leadership, and that they see change happen, because the quickest way for things to lose momentum is when people see that things aren't happening, and then people start to lose interest, and you start to see those students, those numbers dwindle at those sessions, etc. I just wanted to chuck this in. It's super obvious. It's really obvious, but again, it's just my own experiences, not just from one place, from numerous places. It's important to recognise that a lot of the time we kind of conflate politics, so to speak. One could argue everything's political, but they conflate political parties and diversity and inclusion, and therefore they kind of shy away from it because they feel like they're making some sort of political point and they have to remain neutral. It's for me, I remind everyone we're talking about human rights here. We're not actually we're not aligning ourselves with a particular party as much as we might want to, or as much as we do behind the scenes. It's about human rights. The biggest barriers in my experience to changing the curriculum and overhauling it are staff not liking change. People don't like change, so that not liking change. Staff exposure to the material being taught. So my subject areas are film, media, and English. And I've certainly found English, especially as being a particular subject area where, we go to university, we study literature or linguistics or a combination of both, and we get a tiny fraction, of exposed to a tiny fraction of literature. So you're it's very much your own experience dependent on the lecturers and their choices of the material. And then you might diversify that a little bit in your third year when you get a bit more freedom. So if you haven't experienced that yourself, well, there could be certainly a lot of anxiety around, okay, we're gonna explore this text with the students. And if you haven't read it yourself, you're not familiar with it, sometimes that can cause some problems. Bias, and this is especially in English about what is considered canon. I'm not going to fall down the rabbit hole with this one and start discussing what is canon and what isn't a canon. But essentially, it's something that comes up an awful lot as a discussion point. Falling into the trap of lowering challenge levels. So I think when people are very enthusiastic, they kind of get onto Twitter and Google and they're like, oh, brilliant, I'll do that book in year 7. And then actually when you start digging around, you find out the reading age of that particular text is kind of 9 to 10. And so you've got to think about your challenge levels of the material that students are exposed to as well. Extra work, I'll come on to that in a minute, but that's another barrier potentially. The myth around national curriculum content, I've heard a lot. Well, I'm beholden to the national curriculum. If you actually read the national curriculum, there's a lot of flexibility there. And then a lack of confidence. So I don't think this is controversial, but some people might think it's controversial. It is more work. There's no getting around that. I've been to a lot of sessions. I've been to a lot of videos and in-person CPD sessions where people talk about, well, we don't want it to be extra work. It doesn't have to be extra work. It will be more work, and it should be more work. We at the school that I work at, I overhauled the whole curriculum, and it was a beast. It was an absolute beast, because if we think about a curriculum, it should be this kind of fluid experience that, for the students. They should be on this journey, and I see it almost like a script. It's very difficult to kind of shoehorn something into a film script or something like that. When you're down at the 5th draft and decide you want to chuck in a new piece of content. So therefore you do really need to think, well, what is that journey from year 6 in the case of key stage, in the case of secondary schools? What are they leaving year 6 with? They're joining in year 7. And what's that journey right through to key stage 5? If you've got a 6th one, but if not, the end of key stage 4. So there will be a lot of work. Of course there will. And it would be naive to suggest that there's not going to be more work, but that should be exciting and fun. So we can't get anywhere without big changes. And cross-curricular is a golden opportunity. I often talk about, you've made it as a school from the curriculum point of view, when you've just got this beautiful tapestry. It's cross-curricular. And that for me is the kind of educational utopia when it comes to curriculum. And a quick win. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this grid before, but embedding SMSC through curriculum. It gives you that mandate. So essentially, it's a starting point for all of those that are wanting to drive change. And every school has to do this. So if we're thinking about how am I going to get senior leaders on board, how am I going to get my subject leader on board, or my line manager, whoever it might be, well, every school has to do this. So we have this grid, and we work through it. So this is a good conversation starter if you're early in your journey at your school on this. And I wanted to, I've got, not long less, I wanted to kind of give you a brief look at how we've started to do it. And I'm happy to share this with anyone after that wants to look at our English curriculum specifically. You can see there that with our Key Stage 3, we've got a wide range of texts from The Tempest, Narrative of Life of Frederick Douglass, An American Slave, Detroit Become Human, because we explore things like themes like what does it mean to be human? And so we speculate, we look back in time, how have we treated humanity in the past, and then what might we treat sentient beings in the future. And students have really, really enjoyed that module. So I think I'm almost out of time. So you can see there our kind of thematic approach to Key Stage 3. as I said, I'm happy to share all these slides. So example texts are there, some really exciting text. And like I said, I'll finish on this point. It is a lot of work, it's worthy work, it's really important. Get your senior leaders on board. If you are a senior leader, this has to be on the school improvement plan for September for sure.
Okay, thank you so much. It's fascinating listening to you, Darren. It's really nice to see you. I know that we often talk to each other on Twitter, but we've never actually been in the same space, I don't think. Well, we're not still in the same space, but you know what I mean. Obviously, a lot of what you've said resonates with the work that I do with curriculum leaders around diversity. And I want to go back to this idea of like not having enough knowledge to be able to do certain things. And I get that a lot. We just don't know enough about LGBT issues or transgender or sexuality or gender identity in particular. Those things seem to come up a lot, to be able to do the work justice. How do you respond to that?
I think first and foremost, I often, I play the easy card, which is that we are all learners. That kind of that cliche of we're teaching, but we are learning along the way. And we ask a lot of our young people. We ask an awful lot of them. We have to continue to evolve and learn ourselves. And I think that's really, really important. As an aside to that, just one of the most effective ways I've learned recently, kind of painfully, because I think when I first started this journey of educating myself on so much, and then thinking I'm going to impart this wisdom to a body of staff that are clearly going to absolutely love me and love this information I'm sharing, it was way more impactful when I got the young people to do it. Way more impactful. People were more relaxed. They were willing to kind of ask questions. And I think with the issues that you've certainly raised just there, a lot of the students that we have are so knowledgeable. They are so knowledgeable. So I think going back to the workload issue, I think making sure as a senior leader you are creating those opportunities for people to learn. I think that we have to be aware of workload. If this is a priority and we put this on the school improvement plan, well, we have to ensure there is the time within those working hours for people to gain the knowledge that they need, because it is asking a lot to say, do you know what, we're going to overhaul all of this, we're going to introduce this, and by the way, I want you to spend a Sunday evening in between marking, swatting up on everything that you need to know. So I think it has to be part of that school improvement plan, and you have to create the space for people to learn.
Absolutely agreed. I mean, anything that's a mandate has to be given time and space. And if it's a priority in a school, we know that, you can't do that without allocated time. And directed time can disappear into, standardization and moderation, which are all really important. But that thinking around subject is invaluable for our students. I think with the lack of work, the work issue, I know you said that it is more work. And I suppose we could also argue it is the work. That is our job, So, when we're thinking about what it looks like, you said you overhauled the curriculum. Did you throw things out and then start again? Or was that a kind of slow process of evolution?
So no, I literally threw a vast majority of it out and started again. There are going to be lots of ways in, so I definitely wouldn't say that's absolutely what everybody should do, because I do appreciate every context is different and they have their different challenges and different workload levels. But I think for me, I was very keen on just ripping off the plaster and just saying, I know you're really comfortable with of Mice and Men. I know you studied it at school, and I know that you have all the resources for the last 25 years, and you took your teachers' resources when you left school, and you've revised them, etc., etc. But it is intimidating and quite daunting introducing a new text that, bear in mind, a lot of the time have very little resources out there. You kind of go onto Google, you're searching around, and you can't find any a PowerPoint or a teaching pack. So you are starting from scratch. But I think that it was, as you said, it was the work. It's so important. And I think that the way I kind of hopefully won people over was just really sticking to that idea of the learning journey and that kind of fluidity. It had to fit together neatly. The students needed to feel they're on a journey, and thematically it all needed to link. I hate stuff shoehorned in. Students, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and students hate it.
And I think you're absolutely right. These things have to be meaningful and have rationale behind them, as opposed to just kind of having a tick box activity. Again, I have to cut us off. I do get involved in these conversations. So thank you so much, Darren, for sharing your thoughts around the curriculum. So much to value there.